The OPPO Enco Clip 2 is indeed impressive, but its real opponent is the Huawei FreeClip 2. Hi friends, welcome back, this is Jessie. The OWS trend is blowing stronger than ever. A few weeks ago, I tried out the OPPO Enco Clip 2 at a store. As you know, I genuinely like OPPO products. Some friends even joke that I sound like their marketing rep. I really should start asking OPPO for a paycheck. My expectations for this were high, so I pre-ordered them and they finally arrived. Today we are doing a comprehensive real-world test against both the first and the second generation Huawei FreeClips. And let's see how this pair, which is about $50 cheaper than the Huawei FreeClip 2, actually performs. If you find this video helpful, remember to like and comment. So let's start by breaking down the exterior design. The OPPO ear clips come in two distinct colorways, the high gloss gold and the space gray. The overall aesthetics follows a flattened and circular design language. The gold version features a percent finish on both the earbuds and the charging case, giving it a surface quality very reminiscent of a real pearl. However, there is a practical downside. It is incredibly prone to attracting fingerprints and skin oils. For my friends out there with oil ears, you will find this material to be quite slippery. And furthermore, the seam gaps where the mold meet feel slightly larger than I like to see. If you decide on this color, I strongly suggest buying a protective case and keeping a cleaning cloth handy. And on the other hand, the space gray version offers a metal-like matte finish. It does a much better job at resisting fingerprints, and you won't run into those slippery stability issue while trying to adjust them. The various curved line across the body looks quite sophisticated and well thought out. However, when you place this next to the Huawei alternatives, both the OPPO models feel slightly more plasticky. And having been spoiled by the exquisite, the compact and lightweight braid design of the Huawei FreeClip 2, the Enco Clip 2 feels noticeably clunky or heavy-handed at first sight. And specifically, the C-bridge section uses a flat-shade titanium material, which results in a design that looks thicker and flatter than the Huawei's. That said, if you compare the OPPO to something like the Sony LinkBuds or the Shock Open Dots, the Enco Clip 2 is still remarkable, streamlined and refined. And there is a thoughtful design detail here. The OPPO case has a tapered arc, narrower at the top and wider at the bottom, which feels more comfortable in the palm than Huawei's. And the back still features the classic Dyno Audio tuning logo. And my pre-orders also include a custom gift set with a storage case and a small mirror and a clean charm, which was quite nice, though you likely won't get that perk now. And in terms of the weight, a single bud comes in at 5.2 grams, which is almost identical to the Huawei FreeClip 2. However, when looking at them side by side, you can clearly see that the real housing of the OPPO is larger, and this means that when you actually wear them, the presence behind your ear is much stronger. And the Huawei FreeClip 2 remains the king of that weightless sensation, feeling much more secure and unobtrusive, while both are comfortable for short listening sessions. The OPPO buds started to cause noticeable pain in my ear after about 4 or 5 hours of the continuous wear, and the Huawei FreeClip 2, meanwhile, caused zero discomfort during the same period. It still leads me to the conclusion that the only thing that can beat Huawei is Huawei itself. And don't ask me how I know this so precisely. I actually wore both pairs while playing a 5-hour Mahjong marathon. I wasn't just playing that for the fun of it, it was strictly for the sake of the review. You believe it? And moving on to the sound quality, the OPPO has packed in flagship-level hardware, including dual decks and a dual driver setup. For this release, they've provided 4 built-in tuning modes. The vocals mode is quite aggressive, pulling the voices forward with a certain level of sharp stimulation. And the dynamic mode uses a classic U-shaped tuning. It boosts the low-frequency atmosphere while maintaining a decent level of layering in the strings, making it a great fit for metal or the energetic music. And the stock mode is the typical balanced one. It preserves the basic music atmosphere while delivering a respectable level of instrument separation and capable of handling almost any pop track you throw at it. And finally, the signature Dyno Audio tuning offers what I could described as a warm and lush listening experience. The overall sound leans towards the mid to low frequencies, with a slight separation of vocals to emphasize the live presence of the music. Fans of rock and jazz will likely find this mode very appealing. However, there is a significant catch. Unlike Huawei, this generation of Clip 2 does not feature a custom EQ function. Because open-ear clips naturally suffer from bass leakage, we aren't going to obsess over frequency response curve today. So instead, I will share my subjective listening experience under the stock preset with high-res and AAC mode enabled. So regarding the bass performance, which is the most distinctive part of the ear clip, the OPPO's flagship tuning usually favor a mid to high frequency direction to keep the sound clean and crisp. These clips follow that DNA perfectly. They don't overdo the bass. The spatial boundaries are clear, and the positioning is sharp, providing a satisfying fit to the gut impact. However, since the baseline bass quantity isn't as high as Huawei's, the sub-bass extension or the deep dive feels slightly lacking, and in the mid-range, the female vocals are tuned beautifully with precisely controlled sibilance. It's very faint and doesn't feel over-beautified, allow you to feel the singer's breath and mouth-shape details clearly. Male vocals, by comparison, feel a bit thinner, and the trebles have moderated brightness without becoming too piercing, and crisp instruments like the triangle are clear with good resolution and high separation. The imaging of the instrument is distinct and doesn't get cluttered even in the busier tracks. The extension is also quite good. The lingering tail of a saxophone provides a stronger sense of the lightness. Honestly, though, that exclusive airness is still a big lacking, which is an irreparable side effect of the sound leakage caused by the distance between the driver and the ear canal. And the soundstage is larger than both the Sony Clip and the FreeClip 2, forming a well-organized circle where the vocals and the instruments are positioned at a moderate distance, providing a strong atmospheric feel. However, there are two major issues. So first, the spatial audio feature significantly degrades the sound quality once it's toggled on. Before being activated, the sound is full, natural, and solid with excellent texture. After activation, although the stage feels wider and more open, the bass reverberation becomes much more obvious and messy. Specifically in the vocal section, the sound becomes extremely scattered. I even noticed a feel of the unbalance between the left and right ear, resulting in a hollow and weak experience that I wouldn't recommend it. And second, much like the initial launch of the Huawei FreeClip 2, the OPPO Clip 2 has a very high sound pressure level. In simple terms, at the same volume level, the second generation is louder than the first. While this sounds like a good thing, it seems the sound pressure is set so high that it hits the physical limit of the driver unit. When you turn the volume up to about 80%, you will start to hear audio clipping or breaking, but you don't need to worry too much, as you normally wouldn't and shouldn't listen to the music at such a high volume. Overall, even though the tuning style differ, both OPPO and Huawei earn a score of 9 for sound quality. Feel like atmosphere and reverberation, Huawei is outstanding. And if you prefer clarity, refinement, and detail, OPPO is the better choice. So when it comes to the latency, we can see that within its own ecosystem, the OPPO Enco Clip 2 is incredibly impressive, staying under 100 milliseconds, and this is perfectly adequate for daily videos and even gaming. However, its performance on non-OPPO phones is mediocre at best. Even with game mode enabled, the latency hovers around 150 milliseconds. While this is fine for watching movies, and the FPS or the rhythm games player should definitely take note. And battery life is a win for OPPO, reaching 9.5 hours for a single charge and 14 hours total in normal mode. With LHDC enabled, it reaches 8 hours for a single charge and 36 hours total. This is nicely better than Huawei, comfortably allowing for a once-a-week charging habit. And given the excellent fast charging performance of modern earbuds, the battery anxiety isn't a major factor here. And aside from its self-developed features, the OPPO Clip 2 matches Huawei's specs almost point to point. It supports left and right self-adaptive wide arrow tapping and high high-quality encoding and spatial audio. Features like precise search, adaptive volume, nodding to answer calls, and shaking your head to hang up perform very similar to the Huawei's experience. However, the voice assistant is a clear weakness. The voice recognition is very slow and the response is extremely sluggish. I'm not sure if it's a network issue or a phone issue, but it often takes 5 or 6 seconds to respond. It's not enough for me to just pull out my phone and do it manually, and I also test this on an iPhone for a day to see how they perform outside the ecosystem. There is no native pop-up for pairing, and you only get a pop-up within the dedicated app. It was actually quite funny to see some people online just praising OPPO's ecosystem adaptation just because of an app pop-up. That isn't real adaptation. Okay, furthermore, on non-OPPO devices, you'll lose the AI translation feature and the remote camera shutter and the high-res mode. So in summary, if you are choosing between the Huawei FreeClip 2 and the OPPO Enco Clip 2, I think the price tag already gave you the answer. If you're looking for a pair of the earbuds that are comfortable for daily use, perform at a high level, and don't force you to compromise on sound quality, I would highly recommend the OPPO Enco Clip 2. However, if budget isn't your primary concern, the Huawei FreeClip 2 is absolutely worth the extra $50. Its weightless wearing experience, deep bass impact, and the overall sense of the atmosphere have yet to be surprised in the clip-on category. I feel like OPPO's primary mistake was simply releasing this too late in the game. If they had come out before the FreeClip 2, they would have been a superior choice for the Huawei FreeClip the first generation. But now that the Huawei FreeClip 2 is on the market, the OPPO needs to either make a significant technical breakthrough or commit even harder to the price war. To help you make your final decision, I've included the call test recordings for both modes at the end of the video so that you can hear the microphone difference for yourself. Alright, that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for sticking with me. Hope this video brings you some help. See you next time. Goodbye, Jessie.
Hello guys, this is Jessie. I'm testing the call quality of the OPPO Enco Clip 2 in the quiet room. How do you feel the sound? Is it clear? Hello guys, this is Jessie. I'm testing the call quality of the Huawei FreeClip 2 in the quiet room. How do you feel the sound? Is it clear?